Welcome to Module 5. In this module, we're going to talk about some of the key reasons that people are calling for fintech innovation. And one of those main things is the decentralized status, the nature of this, thus democratizing finance and allowing regular people to participate more fully and affordably in financial transactions through technologies like cryptocurrency, non-government issued IDs, peer-to-peer lending, things of that nature. And so in this module, we're going to address some really big questions considering whether fintech should lead to a decentralized, democratized system of finance, or whether existing institutions will adopt fintech strategies to cement their existing hold on financial markets. During this module, we're going to discuss these major themes, including the perceived desire for democratization of goods and services. Is that good or bad? Will there be unintended consequences? So a lot of this is going to be a continuation of things that we've talked about in other modules, including Module 2, where we talked about blockchain. So we'll be referencing back to those from time to time. And one of the key things that we're going to be emphasizing is the sources of power. So for example, will fintech innovation lead to a decentralization of power, or maybe a concentration of existing power sources like governments and banks? Or will a new concentration of power really be created in tech fins like Amazon or Tencent, which owns an app like WeChat, for example? Okay, we're going to start Module 5 with a quick story. Now, I've been living and working within China for over a decade and traveled there many times. Last year, I had the opportunity to go to a small part of Western China that I'd never been before. So imagine kind of a rural desert landscape, kind of dust everywhere. Well, in the morning, I decided to not eat breakfast in the hotel and instead went out to get something on the street. Now, I noticed that there was a particular street vendor, an old woman, who you could tell she'd been doing this for a very long time, and she was surrounded by people. So it was obvious that her food was quite popular. So I went over there quite excitedly, kind of watched what everybody was doing, and then when it came to be my turn, I ordered some food. Now, thankfully, I can speak Chinese, and so that part of it was easy from a cultural standpoint. As I reached into my wallet and started to pull out some cash, I could immediately see the concern on her face when we both had the realization that every other single person in that circle had paid using their phone, and she did not have the ability to give me change with cash. So here I was, probably the person who had most access to the financial industry, and yet I was the one that was completely cut out of the transaction and out of this marketplace. Now, I found this experience, even though I couldn't get my breakfast and I was a little upset about that, I found this experience super cool because this community in rural Western China had, in a short amount of time, moved almost completely away from cash. And indeed, anyone that's been to China recently knows that most communities are the same way. And the government, for those that have been there, know that they are actually very supportive of this change. So we find this story is going to be a good summary, not only for the things that we've discussed in modules 1 through 4, but also it's going to be a nice transition to help us start asking some of the bigger questions that we're going to be analyzing in modules 5 and 6. So before you move on to the next video, we just want to ask you, think about this story. And from a fintech standpoint, what are some of the observations that you have, especially about how fintech is impacting local people, average people in rural communities or advanced communities all over the world?